The Mockery, the ESS Titan, drifted silently in the cold darkness of space. Its hull scarred and weathered, like an old warrior who had seen too many battles. To any observer, it looked like nothing more than a converted cargo hauler, barely worthy of being called a warship. Its weapons appeared outdated, its armor seemed thin, and its design looked clunky compared to the sleek vessels that modern militaries preferred. But appearances, as the universe was about to learn, could be devastatingly deceiving. Commander Sarah Chen stood on the bridge, her hands clasped behind her back as she stared through the viewport at the star-filled void. At 35, she had already earned a reputation as one of humanity's most brilliant tactical minds, though few knew the true extent of her achievements. Her dark hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail, and her uniform bore the worn patches of someone who had spent more time in space than on any planet. The bridge around her was quiet, save for the gentle hum of life support systems and the occasional beep from monitoring stations. Dr. Marcus Rivera sat hunched over his engineering console, his fingers dancing across holographic displays that showed readings incomprehensible to most people. At 42, Rivera was considered a genius even among the brilliant minds of Earth's scientific community. His breakthrough in quantum resonance theory had led to technologies that existed nowhere else in the galaxy, though the galaxy didn't know that yet. His weathered face bore the marks of countless sleepless nights spent perfecting his creations, and his eyes held the intense focus of someone who understood that failure meant extinction. Lieutenant Jake Morrison, barely 23 and fresh from the academy, monitored the tactical displays with nervous energy. He had volunteered for this assignment, knowing it might be humanity's last stand, but nothing had prepared him for the reality of facing an enemy fleet that outnumbered them 10,000 to 1. His youth and inexperience were balanced by an unwavering determination to prove himself worthy of serving alongside legends like Chen and Rivera. The silence on the bridge was broken by a sharp alarm. Morrison's voice cracked slightly as he announced, "Commander, massive hyperspace signatures detected. Multiple contacts emerging from jump points throughout the system." His hands trembled as he adjusted his controls, trying to get a clear reading on what was approaching. Chun's expression remained calm, though her jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. "How many, Lieutenant?" Morrison swallowed hard as the numbers continued climbing on his display. 10,000, Commander. Maybe more. They single quotes, They're everywhere. The magnitude of what they faced was almost beyond comprehension. No single ship had ever faced odds like these and survived. Through the viewport, space began to shimmer and twist as massive vessels materialized from hyperspace. The ships of the HFY Dominion were works of art as much as instruments of war, their sleek hulls gleaming with an almost organic quality. Each vessel was larger than most human space stations, armed with weapons that could crack moons and protected by shields that had never been penetrated. The fleet arranged itself in a perfect formation, creating a wall of firepower that stretched across the entire system. Rivera looked up from his console, his face pale but determined. "Commander, all systems are ready. The quantum resonance drive is charging, though I still think we need more time for final calibrations." His voice carried the weight of knowing that his untested technology was humanity's only hope against impossible odds. Chen nodded, her eyes never leaving the alien fleet. "We'll make do with what we have, Marcus. Time is a luxury we don't possess." She turned to Morrison. "Open a channel to the lead ship." The main screen flickered to life, revealing the bridge of the HFY flagship. Admiral Zixthara dominated the center of the image, her chitinous exoskeleton gleaming under the harsh lights of her command center. Standing nearly 8 feet tall, with 4 arms and eyes that glowed with an inner fire, she embodied the predatory nature of her species. Behind her, dozens of her officers worked at stations that pulsed with bioluminescent displays, their movements precise and efficient. Zixthara's mandibles clicked in what passed for amusement among her kind. When she spoke, her voice was transmitted through universal translators, carrying an unmistakable tone of contempt. So, this is humanity's great defender, a single ancient vessel crewed by primitives who still think in terms of metal and fire. Chen stepped forward, her posture straight and confident despite the overwhelming odds. I am Commander Sarah Chen of the Earth Space Service. You are trespassing in human territory. I order you to withdraw immediately. The alien admiral's laughter was a harsh, chittering sound that sent chills down the spines of everyone on the Titan's bridge. Order us. You pathetic creatures still don't understand your place in the universe. We are the Kethva, Dominion, conquerors of 1,000 worlds. Your entire species exists only because we have not yet bothered to extinguish you. Zixthara gestured with one of her arms, and the screen split to show tactical displays of the human ship. The analysis was brutally accurate, showing the Titan's apparent weaknesses and outdated technology. Look at yourselves. Your weapons are centuries behind ours. Your armor is laughably thin. Your ship appears to be held together with hope and desperation. What could you possibly do against the might of 10,000 warships? Rivera's fingers continued working at his console, making final adjustments to systems the aliens couldn't even detect. The quantum resonance drive hummed deep within the ship's core, invisible to conventional sensors but building towards something that would change everything. He caught Chen's eye and gave an almost imperceptible nod. Morrison watched the alien fleet through his sensors, noting their casual formation and relaxed posture. They weren't even bothering to maintain combat readiness. To them, this was less a battle than an execution, and they saw no need for caution against such primitive opponents. Chun's voice remained steady as she responded to the alien admiral. We may appear weak to you, Admiral Zixthara, but humanity has survived this long by adapting, by innovating, and by never giving up when faced with extinction. You've made one critical error in your assessment. The alien's eyes narrowed, though her tone remained mocking. And what error is that, primitive? Chen smiled, and for the first time there was something dangerous in her expression. You assumed that what you can see is all there is. You analyzed our hull, our weapons, our apparent capabilities, but you never considered what might lie beneath the surface. You never asked why a single human ship would dare to face your entire armada. Zixthara's mandibles clicked impatiently. Desperation makes fools of many species. Your foolishness will serve as entertainment before we claim your world. She gestured dismissively. I grow bored with this conversation. Surrender now, and your deaths will be quick. Resist, and we will make your species suffer for generations before extinction claims you all. The transmission cut off, leaving the bridge of the Titan in tense silence. Morrison's hands gripped his console as he watched the alien fleet begin to adjust their formation, preparing for what they clearly expected to be a brief and one-sided engagement. Rivera's voice was quiet, but filled with barely contained excitement. Commander, quantum resonance drive is fully charged. All systems are nominal. The aliens have no idea what's about to hit them. Chen nodded, her eyes fixed on the approaching fleet. The Kethva ships moved with the confidence of predators who had never encountered prey that could fight back. their weapons began charging, and Morrison's sensors detected energy buildups that dwarfed anything humanity had previously encountered. "They think we're helpless," Chen said, her voice carrying across the bridge. "They see an old ship with primitive technology, crewed by a species they consider beneath notice. They've convinced themselves that superior numbers and advanced weapons are all they need to claim victory." She turned to face her crew, seeing the fear in their eyes, but also the determination that had carried humanity from caves to the stars. "What they don't understand is that human strength doesn't come from our ships or our weapons. It comes from our refusal to accept defeat, our ability to find solutions where others see only problems, and our willingness to risk everything to protect what we hold dear." The alien fleet completed its approach, weapons fully charged and targeting systems locked onto the Titan. Thousands of alien voices cried out for blood, certain that the coming battle would be nothing more than target practice. Rivera's hands hovered over his controls, waiting for Chun's command. The quantum resonance drive hummed with power that existed beyond conventional understanding, ready to unleash forces that would rewrite the laws of physics in this corner of space. Morrison's tactical display showed the impossible odds they faced, but also began highlighting something the aliens couldn't see. Deep within the Titan's core, energy patterns were building that defied everything known about starship design and operation. Chen's voice was calm as she gave the order that would change everything. "Dr. Rivera, activate the quantum resonance drive. Lieutenant Morrison, all weapons to full power. It's time to show the galaxy what humanity is truly capable of." The moment of truth had arrived, and the universe was about to witness the birth of a legend. The obliteration the moment Dr. Rivera's fingers touched the activation controls. Reality itself seemed to hold its breath. Deep within the Titan's core, the quantum resonance drive awakened like a sleeping god stirring to consciousness. Energy patterns that existed beyond the understanding of conventional physics began to cascade through specially designed conduits, creating ripples in space-time that no alien sensor could detect or comprehend. The first sign that something extraordinary was happening came not from the Titan itself, but from the space around it. Stars in the distance began to shimmer and bend, their light taking on colors that had no names. The fabric of reality warped and twisted, creating visual distortions that made observers question their own senses. The ancient-looking cargo hauler that had seemed so primitive suddenly became the center of phenomena that challenged everything the Kethva Dominion thought they knew about the universe. Admiral Zixthara noticed the anomalies first, her enhanced vision catching the subtle changes in light and space around the human vessel. Her mandibles clicked in confusion as her sensors began reporting readings that made no sense. "Science officer, explain these readings immediately," she commanded, her voice sharp with growing concern. The Kethva science officer, a smaller creature with multiple sensory organs that could analyze energy across dozens of spectrums, worked frantically at his station. "Admiral, I'm detecting energy patterns unlike anything in our databases. The human vessel appears to be generating quantum fluctuations on a scale that should be impossible for a ship of its size." Meanwhile, aboard the Titan, Rivera watched his displays with the fascination of a scientist witnessing the birth of a new star. "Commander, quantum field generation is at optimal levels. The drive is exceeding all theoretical parameters. We're actually rewriting local physics within a 50-kilometer radius of our position." Chen felt the deck beneath her feet begin to vibrate with a frequency that seemed to resonate in her bones. The very atoms of the ship were being transformed by energies that existed at the intersection of science and what could only be called magic. "Show me what we're capable of." Dr. Rivera's smile was the expression of a man who had spent years preparing for this moment. "The quantum resonance drive doesn't just power our ship, Commander. It allows us to exist partially outside normal space-time. We can manipulate matter at the subatomic level, bend energy to our will, and turn the enemy's own weapons against them." The first test came when the Kethva fleet opened fire. Thousands of energy beams, each capable of vaporizing a city, lanced through space toward the Titan. Morrison watched in amazement as the beams struck what should have been empty space around their ship and simply disappeared, their energy absorbed and redirected by fields that existed in dimensions the aliens couldn't perceive. "Impossible," Zixthara hissed, her forearms gesturing frantically as she ordered her fleet to increase firepower. "No shield technology can simply make energy disappear. What are we fighting?" The answer came in the form of the Titan's counterattack. What had appeared to be simple, outdated weapons suddenly unleashed destruction on a scale that defied comprehension. Each shot from the human vessel didn't just destroy its target, it caused enemy ships to implode, their own energy systems turning against them as quantum fields inverted the basic forces holding matter together. Rivera's voice carried across the bridge with barely contained excitement. "Commander, each enemy vessel we destroy is feeding energy back into the quantum drive. We're not just fighting them, we're converting their own fleet into fuel for our systems." The first dozen Kethva ships to fall created a chain reaction that rippled through the enemy formation. Their destruction released exotic particles that the quantum drive absorbed and converted into even more power. What had started as a desperate last stand was rapidly becoming something far more significant. Chen watched the tactical display as enemy contacts began disappearing at an exponential rate. The more they fight us, the stronger we become. Their own aggression is sealing their fate. Morrison could hardly believe what his sensors were telling him. "Commander, we're reading massive power fluctuations throughout the enemy fleet. It's like their ships are turning against them." The truth was even more extraordinary. The quantum resonance drive was creating cascading failures. In Kethva technology, by manipulating the fundamental forces that held their ships together, advanced alien metallurgy, perfected over millennia, became brittle and fragile when subjected to quantum fields that aged materials at different rates simultaneously. Weapons systems designed to function for thousands of years suddenly experienced components failing as temporal distortions caused different parts to exist at different moments in time. Zixthara's flagship shuddered as systems throughout her vast vessel began reporting malfunctions. "All ships, fall back to minimum safe distance. We're dealing with technology beyond our current understanding." For the first time in her long military career, she felt something she had never experienced before: fear. But it was too late for retreat. The quantum fields generated by the Titan had reached a critical threshold, creating a zone of altered reality that encompassed the entire enemy fleet. Ships that tried to flee found their engines aging centuries in seconds, their hulls becoming dust as temporal distortions played havoc with molecular bonds. Rivera monitored the expanding field of effect with scientific fascination. "Commander, we've achieved quantum resonance cascade. Every atom within our sphere of influence is now dancing to our tune. The enemy fleet isn't just trapped, they're becoming part of our weapon system." The next phase of the battle defied every principle of conventional warfare. The Titan began to move through space in ways that should have been impossible. appearing in multiple locations simultaneously as quantum superposition allowed it to exist in probability states rather than fixed positions. HFY targeting systems, designed to track objects moving through normal spacetime, simply couldn't lock onto a vessel that existed in several dimensions at once. Chen coordinated the impossible battle with the calm precision of someone who had trained for this moment her entire life. Focus fire on their command vessels. Cut the head off the snake, and the body will follow. Morrison worked his controls with growing confidence as he realized they weren't just winning. They were redefining what victory meant. Commander, enemy fleet cohesion is breaking down. They're firing on each other as their targeting systems mistake quantum echoes for hostile contacts. The HFY Dominion, conquerors of 1,000 worlds, found themselves facing an enemy that operated by rules they couldn't understand. Ships that had never known defeat were being destroyed by weapons that seemed to attack from inside their own hulls. Crews that had served the Dominion with absolute loyalty suddenly found themselves questioning reality itself as their vessels became battlegrounds where physics itself had turned hostile. Admiral Zixtara made one final, desperate gambit. Gathering the remnants of her fleet around her flagship, she ordered a direct ramming attack against the human vessel. If conventional weapons couldn't touch the Titan, perhaps the sheer mass of HFY ships could overwhelm whatever impossible technology they were facing. The suicide charge might have worked against any normal opponent, but the Titan was no longer bound by normal limitations. As hundreds of alien vessels approached at ramming speed, Rivera made a final adjustment to the quantum drive that transformed the very nature of space around them. Commander, initiating spatial inversion. The enemy's kinetic energy will be redirected against their own fleet. What followed was a sight that would have been impossible to witness without the quantum fields protecting the Titan's crew from the FX. The charging HFY vessels struck what appeared to be empty space and found their momentum reversed, sending them crashing into their own ships with the same force they had intended to use against humanity. Zixtara's flagship, the mightiest vessel in the Dominion fleet, struck the quantum barrier and simply ceased to exist. One moment it was there, and the next it had been converted into pure energy that fed back into the Titan's systems. The proud admiral who had mocked humanity's primitive technology became nothing more than fuel for the very weapon she had so foolishly underestimated. As the last echoes of destruction faded, the Titan drifted alone in space, surrounded by the scattered atoms of what had once been the most powerful fleet in the galaxy. The quantum resonance drive gradually powered down, returning local space-time to its normal state and leaving only silence, where there had once been 10,000 voices crying for human blood. Rivera looked at his readings with the satisfaction of someone whose life's work had exceeded even his wildest dreams. Commander, quantum fields are stabilizing. The drive performed flawlessly. Not a single enemy vessel survived. Morrison stared at his now empty tactical display, struggling to comprehend what they had just accomplished. Commander, I'm not detecting any survivors. The entire HFY fleet has been eliminated. Chen nodded slowly, understanding the magnitude of what had just occurred. They hadn't just won a battle, they had announced humanity's arrival on the galactic stage in a way that could never be ignored or forgotten. The aftermath of the Battle of Kepler's Edge, as historians would later call it, sent shockwaves throughout the galaxy. The HFY Dominion, previously thought invincible, had been erased from existence by a single human vessel that most observers had dismissed as primitive. News of the impossible victory spread through hyperspace communication networks. carrying with it a message that reshaped galactic politics overnight. Humanity was no longer a species to be conquered or ignored. They had proven themselves capable of technologies that existed beyond the understanding of even the most advanced civilizations. The very mention of the ESS Titan became enough to make potential enemies reconsider their plans for expansion into human space. Chen stood in the observation lounge of the Titan weeks later, looking out at the stars with new understanding. They had saved not just Earth, but had secured humanity's future among the stars. The universe had learned that appearances could be deceiving, and that the true strength of any species lay not in their technology, but in their will to survive and their capacity to achieve the impossible when everything they held dear was threatened. The Titan continued its patrol through human space, no longer disguised as a simple cargo hauler, but recognized throughout the galaxy as exactly what it had always been, humanity's guardian angel, armed with the power to protect the dreams and hopes of an entire species. The galaxy had learned to respect humanity, but more importantly, humanity had learned that they belonged among the stars not as conquerors, but as protectors of everything that made existence worth defending.